Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jamuna Tiravanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari. Jaya Mr. Bhad Paramahansa, Padavadikacharya, Ashtotter to the Srimad, Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa, Padavadikacharya, Ashtotter to the Srimad, Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Kokti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. Are we on text 8, Tapas? Yeah, text 8. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 30th day of August 2022 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace HG Dravida Swami Prabhupada. And we're in chapter 6 entitled Dhyana-yoga, the yoga of meditation. Text number 8 at the bottom of page 263. Jnana vijnana chiptatma kutastov jitendriyaha yukta ityuchyate yogi samalostrasmakanchanaha. Jnana vijnana chiptatma kutasto vijitendriyaha yukta ityuchyate yogi samalostrasmakanchanaha. Jnana vijnana chiptatma kutasto vijitendriyaha yukta ityuchyate yogi samalostrasmakanchanaha. Jnana, by acquired knowledge, vijnana, and realized knowledge, tripta, satisfied, atma, a living entity, kutastaha, spiritually situated, vijita, indriyaha, sensually controlled, yukta, competent for self-realization, iti, thus, uchyate, is said, yogi, a mystic, sama, equipoised, lostra, pebbles, ashma, stone, kanchanaha, gold. Translation. A person is said to be established in self-realization and is called a yogi or mystic when he is fully satisfied by virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Such a person is situated in transcendence and is self-controlled. He sees everything, whether it be pebbles, stones, or gold, as the same. Purport. Book knowledge without realization of the supreme truth is useless. This is stated as follows. Atak Shri Krishna namadi nabave grayam indriyai sevan mukhe jivado swayam eva spuratyadaha. No one can understand the transcendental nature of the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of Sri Krishna through his materially contaminated senses. Only when one becomes spiritually saturated by transcendental service to the Lord are the transcendental name, form, qualities, and pastimes of the Lord revealed to him. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.234. This Bhagavad Gita is the science of Krishna consciousness. No one can become Krishna conscious simply by mundane scholarship. One must be fortunate enough to associate with a person who is in pure Krishna consciousness, or in pure consciousness. A Krishna conscious person has realized knowledge by the grace of Krishna because he is satisfied with pure devotional service. By realized knowledge, one becomes perfect. By transcendental knowledge, one can remain steady in his convictions. But by mere academic knowledge, one can be easily deluded and confused by apparent contradictions. It is the realized soul who is actually self-controlled because he is surrendered to Krishna. He is transcendental because he has nothing to do with mundane scholarship. For him, mundane scholarship and mental speculation, which may be as good as gold to others, are of no greater value than pebbles or stones. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmeditam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Shri Parampara. So, in previous verses, Krishna has been talking about the mind. And beginning in text 5, he states that one should not degrade oneself by the mind, but rather uplift oneself by the mind. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. In the purport, Prabhupada quotes this verse from the Amrita Bindu Upanishad. Mana eva manushanam karanam bandha mokshayo bandhaya vishaya sango muktyai nirvishayam manaha. For man, mind is the cause of bondage and mind is the cause of liberation. Mind absorbed in sense objects is the cause of bondage, and mind detached from the sense objects is the cause of liberation. So Krishna then goes on in text 6, Bandharatmatmanastasya, for him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends, but for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. And then in 7, For one who has conquered the mind, the supersoul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. And then in today's verse, he continues with that description of the self-realized soul. A person is said to be established in self-realization and is called a yogi or mystic when he is fully satisfied by virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Such a person is situated in transcendent and is self-controlled. He sees everything, whether it be pebbles, stones, or gold, as the same. So how can one conquer the mind? That is the question. And most people, I think we can safely say that we even identify ourselves as the mind. And although we certainly have an experience of the mind causing us great trouble and anxiety and so forth, we don't have this idea of conquering the mind, that the mind can then be brought under control and become our best friend. So in Krishna consciousness, the practice of yoga, bhakti yoga, centers on the chanting of the holy name, which is a complete yoga process. It says, I forget the verse now, but it said, the holy name is non-different from Krishna. Namachintamani Krishnas Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purnak Shuddho Nityamukto Abhinatvan Nama Namino. That the holy name is like a Chintamani gem. It changes, it transforms one who comes in touch with it. So the more that we're absorbed in chanting japa or chanting in kirtan, when we're thinking of nothing else but the sound of the holy name, then the full blessings of the transformative power of the holy name can be ours. So Chintamani, we know that Chintamani is the gem, philosopher's stone. Prabhupada sometimes calls it a touchstone. Transforms whatever it touches into gold. So the holy name will transform our mind, purify the mind of all the dross and refuse that we've accumulated since time immemorial. And what will be left? Pure Krishna consciousness. I was just hearing a famous lecture of Srila Prabhupada's on first canto, second chapter, and text 16 or 17, I forget the number. Srinvatam Sukata Krishna Punishavana Kirtana Kuridyan Taksto Yabadhani Vidunoti Suritsatam. In this verse, Sutta Goswami tells the sages in Naimisharanya that the process of hearing Krishna Katha from the right source and the right frame of mind, Krishna within the heart, he very much appreciates that. Srinvatam Sukata Krishna. Prabhupada points out this is a nominative case in the lecture, meaning that Krishna is the subject of the sentence here, of the verse. Krishna understanding that his devotee is hearing about him, and hearing his holy name, hearing descriptions, hearing Bhagavad Gita, any pure vibration about him. He, within the heart, he destroys or cleanses away the abhadras, the unwanted things, those which are inauspicious. The lust, the anger, the greed, all the unfulfilled material desires, the anxieties, the depression, all of these positive, so-called positive and negative feelings and remembrances are cleansed away. Vidunoti Surit Satam, because he is the best friend, best well-wishing friend, dear friend of the devotee, of his devotees. So that's our method for conquering the mind, is surrendering it to the pure sound vibration, which is non-different from Krishna, so it's surrendering to Krishna. So then the mind becomes our friend, because it's spontaneously attracted to thinking of Krishna, remembering Krishna. Avismriti Krishna Padada Vindayo. This is the verse at the very end of the Srimad Bhagavatam, 12th canto, 12th chapter, which is the next to last chapter of the whole book. And there's 8 verses describing the glories of hearing pure transcendental Krishna Katha. And the last verse describes the result of being avismriti. Avismriti, if you look in the book, it's kind of, there's a mistake there, I edited this, and it means remembering Krishna, but really what avismriti means, never forgetting Krishna. We may remember Krishna and then we forget him, remember him and forget him. This is the sadhana stage. But when you come to the point of always remembering Krishna 24 hours, then the result is here. Krishna Padada Vindayo, and who is constantly remembering Krishna's lotus feet, what's the result? Chinotya Badrani, Chashangtanoti, the same word Abhadra is used. Chinot destroys all the inauspicious things in the heart, as I listed before. And Shangtanoti, this word Sham is in the name of Lord Shiva, Sankara. Shankara, I mean, he who causes good fortune for the living entities, souls who worship him as the best of Vaishnavas. And so Shankara, in other words, it brings all good fortune and destroys everything inauspicious in the heart. This constant remembrance. But that's not all. Sattvasya Shuddhim, it purifies one's existence. Paramatma Bhaktim, it nourishes devotional service to the Supreme Soul, Krishna. And what is that bhakti, what is that devotion characterized by? Jnana, knowledge, vijnana, realized knowledge, and vairagya. Jnanam, vijnana, virakta, I forget the last word. So this is a wonderful description of the state of being in pure Krishna consciousness. And Krishna is talking about that here when he says, Jnana Vijnana Triptatma, one who is completely satisfied with the knowledge experience of Krishna consciousness. As we saw with Srila Prabhupada, when he came to America, he eventually, within a month or so, he took up residence in New York City. Now, New York City is in one sense, you can say it's the center of Kali Yuga activity. All of these sinful activities are present there, so many enticements, so much wealth, so much distraction. Srila Prabhupada lived there, but he wasn't affected by that. He was just like a lotus leaf, on a river floating, but not really being inundated. And because he was in this state, he was thinking of Krishna 24 hours a day, and wherever he looked, he saw Krishna, and he looked for opportunities to spread Krishna consciousness. He tried it with Dr. Mishra's ashram. He had some programs there in their country ashram, and he was doing what he could. He attracted a few people here and there, but it wasn't really a very good situation he had, as you know. And eventually he was robbed of his tape recorder, and he was then drawn downtown, down to the East Village, where the hippie movement was in full swing, and there was people who were searching, who were open to Eastern thought and yoga and the things that Prabhupada was giving. And he was able to find receptive souls, receptive hearts, who he was able to plant the seed of bhakti in. Bhakti Lata Bij, a famous verse from Lord Chaitanya's teachings to Rupa Goswami. Brahmanda Brahmite Kon Bhagyavan Jiv Guru Krishna Pasare Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. That there's so many souls were wandering up and down the different universes, different bodies, and we're just reading about the hellish planets. We have to visit those and suffer if we're very sinful. So we've been doing this since time immemorial. Brahmanda means up and down this universe run or engineered by Lord Brahma. Bhagyavan Jiva, the fortunate Jiva, by the mercy of the Guru and Krishna, receives the seed of the creeper of devotion in the heart. That seed is planted through the ears, by hearing, by being attracted. And but then the seed has to be watered, and the main watering process is hearing and chanting Krishna Katha. It's Shravanadi Jal. There's the hearing, etc. So there's 9 processes, but the two most foremost are hearing and chanting, which leads to remembering. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam. So when that's the practice of sadhana bhakti, of coming under the shelter of a realized soul, spiritual master, taking initiation, making commitments, taking vows, all for the purpose of reforming our consciousness and controlling the mind, making the mind our friend. And so the final process is that one never forgets Krishna for a moment. 24 hours a day. Even you're dreaming of Krishna, Krishna Leela, hearing the holy name, whatever. And this is the Avismriti, Krishna Padada Vindayo. So that process is also reflected here, even in the description of Dhyana-yoga, Ashtanga-yoga. Ashtanga-yoga is a more or less mechanical process for bringing the mind under control and fixing it on the super soul in the heart. And Krishna will describe later in this chapter, text 20 to 23, the result of that. And there are parallels of all of the states in bhakti yoga. In the stage of perfection called trance or samadhi, the full absorption, without any deviation, the mind is constantly absorbed in thought of Krishna, his holy name, his service, his form, qualities, all of these things. One never forgets them. Then that's called trance or samadhi. One's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities by practice of yoga. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the Supreme Self, Krishna, by the pure mind and to relish and rejoice in the Self. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness, boundless, realized through transcendental senses. So all the senses are purified and one can perceive Krishna everywhere through them. Realized through transcendental senses, established thus, one never departs from the truth, and upon gaining this he thinks there is no greater gain. Prabhupada would often quote this Sanskrit for that. Yan labdva chapanam labham manyate nadikam tataha. Having attained this, one thinks there is no greater attainment to be had. Boundless transcendental happiness. And nadukena, yasmin sito nadukena gurunapi vichalite. Even the greatest difficulty or misery doesn't shake your consciousness. You're able to transcend that and get through it. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of the greatest difficulty. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact. So this is a very high state of Ashtanga yoga realization. And it's very difficult to attain in the modern age practices. But the same benefits and more are realized by the bhakti yoga process. Hare Krishna, Prabhus. I've been speaking to our guests online. I assume there's maybe 2 or 3 out there, or at least, probably more. So we are in, we
have 10 people watching right now.
Oh, very good. 10 people. So this, page 263 at the bottom, text 8 is the one we studied so far. Okay, so we already went through it, so I'll just read the translation. A person is said to be established in self-realization and is called a yogi or mystic when he is fully satisfied by virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Such a person is situated in transcendence and is self-controlled. He sees everything, whether it be pebbles, stones, or gold, as the same. So I'm not going to read this purport again, but Prabhupada quotes this important verse, Atakshi Krishna Namade Nabhavegrayam Indriyai Sevan Mukha Hijivado Swayameva Sparatita. No one can understand the transcendental nature of the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of Sri Krishna through the materially contaminated senses. Only when one becomes spiritually saturated by transcendental service to the Lord are the transcendental name, form, qualities, and pastimes of the Lord revealed to him. And it begins, Sevan Mukha Hijiva Do, when he takes up service, beginning with the tongue, which is not mentioned in the translation. Sorry. So what do we do with the tongue? Vibrate and taste prasadam. So that's the way bhakti begins. And then Swayameva Sparatita, Krishna himself reveals himself. We should always remember that whatever, bliss we feel, and so this is coming from Krishna. Whatever interest we're feeling in touching, it's all coming from Krishna, from within the heart. He sees our sincerity and he responds proportionately by giving us a taste, giving us interest. And that interest, that curiosity, that greed, if you will, for understanding Krishna is the main qualification for advancement. All right, so we're going to go on to text 9. Reading text 9, and then we can discuss. And we'll go through text 10 because there's no purport. So he's describing the state. He's equipoised in what would normally be seen as disturbing dualities. The realized soul is equipoised. So I'll say, you say, Suran Mitra Judasina Madhyastha Dvesha Bandhushu Sadhu shapicha papeshu samabuddhir vishishyate. A person is considered still further advanced when he regards honest well-wishers, affectionate benefactors, the neutral mediators, the envious, friends and enemies, the pious and the sinners, all with an equal mind. Text 10. Yogi yunjita satatam atmanam rahasistitaha ekaki yata chittatma nirashir aparigraha. A transcendentalist should always engage his body, mind, and self in relationship with the Supreme. He should live alone in a secluded place and should always carefully control his mind. He should be free from desires and feelings of possessiveness. Purport. Krishna is realized in different degrees as Brahman, Paramatma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna consciousness means, concisely, to be always engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. But those who are attached to the impersonal Brahman or the localized Supersoul are also partially Krishna conscious, because the impersonal Brahman is the spiritual ray of Krishna and the Supersoul is the all-pervading partial expansion of Krishna. Thus the impersonalist and the meditator are also indirectly Krishna conscious. A directly Krishna conscious person is the topmost transcendentalist, because such a devotee knows what is meant by Brahman and Paramatma. His knowledge of the absolute truth is perfect, whereas the impersonalist and the meditative yogi are imperfectly Krishna conscious. Nevertheless, all of these are instructed herewith to be constantly engaged in their particular pursuits so that they may come to the highest perfection sooner or later. The first business of a transcendentalist is to keep the mind always on Krishna. One should always think of Krishna and not forget him even for a moment. Concentration of the mind on the Supreme is called samadhi, or trance. In order to concentrate the mind, one should always remain in seclusion and avoid disturbance by external objects. He should be very careful to accept favorable and reject unfavorable conditions that affect his realization. And, in perfect determination, he should not hanker after unnecessary material things that entangle him by feelings of possessiveness. All these perfections and precautions are perfectly executed when one is directly in Krishna consciousness, because direct Krishna consciousness means self-abnegation, wherein there is very little chance for material possessiveness. Srila Rupa Goswami characterizes Krishna consciousness in this way. I'll say, you say. Anasaktasya vishayan yatarham upayunjataha nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagyamuchyate prapanchikataya buddhya harisambandhi vastunaha mumukshubi parityago vairagyam phalgukatyate. When one is not attached to anything, but at the same time accepts everything in relation to Krishna, one is rightly situated above possessiveness. On the other hand, one who rejects everything without knowledge of its relationship to Krishna is not as complete in his renunciation. Bhakti-rasamrita Sindhu 1.2, 255-256. A Krishna-conscious person well knows that everything belongs to Krishna, and thus he is always free from feelings of personal possession. As such, he has no hankering for anything on his own personal account. He knows how to accept things in favor of Krishna consciousness and how to reject things unfavorable to Krishna consciousness. He is always aloof from material things because he is always transcendental. And he is always alone, having nothing to do with persons not in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, a person in Krishna consciousness is the perfect yogi. So, now he begins to describe the process of Ashtanga Yoga. This staying in a secluded place, ekaki, alone, and controlling the mind. And then he's going to go into some detail on how to sit and so forth. So, but the purposes also, the same purposes are achieved when one is really serious about Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada will explain that living alone, for a bhakta, living alone, you don't want to live alone. A very advanced stage, you can have your place, but you still get together with devotees and chant, But the best thing really is to live amongst devotees. And Prabhupada worked so hard to set up these temples and ashrams, so that if you're really serious, you can live with devotees, and that sangha very quickly gives you spiritual strength to follow the process. It just works that way. So, but this verse here, these verses quoted in the purport are probably the real highlight here. And this is, as Prabhupada mentions, they're in the Bhakti Samhita Sindhu. And he's describing the process of what real vairagya means. Because vairagya is an essential part of bhakti. Vairagya means a lack of attachment. And lack of attachment to material things. That's vairagya. So in the ordinary state, we're attached to all kinds of things. And we should remember that attachment has a positive and negative. It's raga and dvesha. Dvesha means abhorrence. That's the flip side of attachment. But that also has to be transcended. Your attachment to enjoy, and also your abhorrence to things that cause you suffering and pain. To be equipoised. That's the thing. So that's the state of vairagya. So he gives, the first verse here describes vairagya in Krishna consciousness. The first thing is anasaktasya vishayan, not being attached to the object of the senses. But yatarhamupayunjita, where appropriate, engaging them in Krishna's service. Simple thing. There's this flower garden here that's been developed with great effort. And so what is it used for? Is it for us to just not go, smell the flowers and they pick them, put them around here? No. First of all, we don't have much hair. Yeah, but it's for Krishna. Maharaj, when he's here, he loves going out in the morning, early morning, getting the flowers and arranging them so that they'll be on the deities, so people will see and be attracted to Krishna. So this is the proper use of gardens, right? So without attachment to the vishayas, beautiful fragrant flowers, or a vishaya, something that you can enjoy, but not enjoying for yourself, yatahabhayunjita nirbandha krishna sambandhe, but using them to link yourself through this act of devotion and offering to Krishna. Yuktam vairagya muchyate, but you remain nirbandha. You're not bound up by any personal attachment, but you're getting bound up to Krishna sambandhe. This is called yukta vairagya, a detachment in yoga, yogic detachment. On the other hand, now there's impersonalists, and they are also, they're practicing what they consider the ultimate yoga, but they don't have this personal idea of what the absolute truth is. It generally goes as far as the impersonal Brahman effulgence. There's three levels: the Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. So proper Chikataya, they think everything is material. Anything it doesn't matter whether it's in the temple or outside. It's the same. It's the same stone, In other words, they don't see that things that are connected to Krishna directly are spiritualized. Even if though externally they're made of material matter, Krishna can spiritualize it. Just like the holy name. It's a spiritual sound vibration. And especially when vibrated by pure devotees or devotees of any kind, it has a great potency, both for them to purify and those who hear it. And that Prabhupada proved that. So Prabhupada, seeing everything as material, proper Chikataya means material. Even Hari Sambandhi Vastu, those things which are directly related to Hari, such as the prasadam or the deity or everything, the temple. It's all material. Obviously it's material, made of stone, They don't see. Mumukshubi, they want liberation. We ultimately are not hankering for liberation. We're hankering for prema, for pure love for Krishna, which includes liberation. But they want mukti without prema, because prema is a personal emotion. They think it's maya. That's called mayavadis. So therefore, parityago. Now this is a very important concept, the distinction between tyaga and vairagya. Tyaga literally means renunciation, giving up. Now there's certain things we give up. We don't eat meat, gambling, etc. So but here, parityaga, they give everything up, everything that to them, even the things related to Krishna. Hari Sambandhi Vastanak, those things. Mumukshabi Vairagyam Polgu Kachire. But their Vairagi is weak. Polgu means weak. It's not really firm in the heart, you know. And the proof is that they can't maintain that consciousness in personal realization just in Brahman. It's not our natural state. Again, this verse, Yenye Erabindaksya Vimuktamaninas Tvayasta Bhavat Avishuddha Buddhya. Avishuddha Buddhya means imperfect intelligence, impure intelligence. Those who are not, this is the demigods praying to Krishna in the womb before he appears, the Devaki and Vasudeva in the dungeon of Kamsa. Besides the devotees, there are others, O Lord. Ye and ye Adabindaksha, O lotus-eyed Lord. Vimuktamaninas. They think they're liberated. They may, a few of them, by great austerity, without the holy name, without the prasada, without the association, without the deities, by the force of will, controlling their mind and raising up, very difficult, raising up. But some of you may do that, but they can't stay there. Just in the impersonal Brahman, no form, no emotions, no activity, just I am that I am, I'm conscious. No pain, you know. But that's not, you know, so they come down, they open hospitals, or they do this, you know, they're not satisfied with it. So this is Polgu, it's weak Vairagya. Prabhupada tells something in an analogy. In India, there's a river called the Polgu River. And during the dry season, it dries up. It's just a riverbed, you know. But if you stick yourself stick your hand in the middle of that riverbed, you know, the sand, down maybe 6 inches or 8 inches, you'll feel some moisture. So their hearts are like that. That externally they seem to be, you know, renounced, but under the surface there's all kinds of these desires, unfulfilled desires that have not been purified. So we want the yukta vairagya, and that's what we're practicing here. And we don't have to try to get it separately. By becoming attracted to Krishna and engaging in Krishna's service, using our body, mind, intelligence, and money, and whatever we have in Krishna's service, and engaging other things in Krishna's service, you automatically get vairagya. The taste comes from the engagement. You're not attached to the thing in itself, but you're attached to Krishna, and you offer something nice to him. And then it's not for you to enjoy. You're enjoying by seeing how much Krishna is enjoying. And for the preacher, you know, those and anyone following the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the greatest enjoyment is to see someone take up Krishna consciousness, to see someone else enjoying in the kirtan. Just like we sing every morning, this Guru Vashtaka. Those who have, you've been in Mangalarti. Yeah. So the 4th verse talks about prasadam, right? What is it? You may not know. Yeah, well, we'll go over it real quick. Chatur Vidhashi Bhagavat Prasada. There's 4 divisions of prasad, that's which is liquid and solid like that. Chatur Bhagavat Prasada, Svadvana Triptan Hari Bhakta Sanghan. So Svadu means very tasty, very nicely performed. So the spiritual master, he becomes satisfied not by eating the prasadam, but by seeing the devotees relish the prasadam. Because he knows, could be the first step in their devotional life, is becoming purified. So that's pure Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada was so eager to distribute prasadam widely. I remember back when I used to go to India, and I went twice in the 70s, yes, and in the early 80s to Mayapur. And this huge, it looks like an airplane hangar, you know, big building, but it's where they're just handing out free prasadam. And in those days, before ISKCON really developed, and because ISKCON was there and growing, the place became more wealthy, you know, more prosperous. But in the early days, there were a lot of poor people who would just trudge. They would bring a little tiffin with them, and they would, you know, we'd hand out khichdi by the ton, you know. And Prabhupada was so happy to see that people were being fed. They were getting Krishna Prasada, being attracted to Krishna. Huh? No, in Mayapur. I mean, Vrindavan also has the same thing now, but in those days it was not so developed in Mayapur. So,
where was the first ISKCON in India?
I'm sorry?
Which place has the first ISKCON temple in India?
It's a good question. It wasn't one of the big ones. It wasn't Bombay or Vrindavan. But Mayapur had a building first, and they had the Lotus building, which was residence upstairs, and the whole first floor was a big temple. It was quite large. I remember it. And they had Radha Madhava deities, but they weren't the big ones that they have now. They were silver, or and metal, brass, very polished though. And very beautiful, and those were the first. You could say Prabhupada's first temple, you know. Okay, so I wanted to do something special tonight, and you're fortunate to be here. I'll explain why. So, as you're probably aware, Radhashtami is coming up on Saturday. So, there is one very simple poem that's in the Stavamala. It's all about Radharani. 10 names of Radharani. And the name of it is Ananda Chandrika, the moonlight of bliss. Chandrika is moonlight and Ananda is bliss, the moonlight of bliss. And there's 10 names here of Radharani. And there's 2 little verses, like the same size verses in the Bhagavad Gita. And then there's 2 more verses that describe the benefits of chanting this, of reciting it. So I'm going to give you both a chance to recite this. I'm going to repeat each name so you can recite it. And then I can eventually send it to you so you can, you know. So these are the 10 names. I'll just say one after another. Or some of them are long names, but hopefully we'll be able to. So the first one is Radha.
Radha.
Damodara. Preshta. Radhika. Varshabhanavi. Samasta. Ballavi Vrinda. Dhammilotangsa. Mallika. Very good. Just one more verse. Krishna. Priyavali. Mukhya. Gandharva. Lalita Sakhi. Vishakha. Sakya. Sukini. Hari Hrid. Bringa. Manjari. Great. So you now recited these 10 names of Radha. I'll read the translation and I'll read the benefits. It's called the Palashuti, the verses that describe the benefits of reading Ashtaka or whatever. In this case, there's 2 verses. So here's the 10 names. 1, Radha. 2, she who is very dear to Lord Damodar. 3, his greatest worshipper, Radhika. That's the name. 4, the daughter of King Vrishabhanu. 5, this is a long name, you can have a long name. She who is the crowning garland of Mallika flowers on the decorated braided hair of all the gopis. It means she's the best of all the gopis, but it's very metaphorical. 6, the first of Krishna's beloveds, the foremost of Krishna's beloveds, Krishna Priyavali Mukhya. An expert singer and musician, Gandharva. She actually took birth in the Gandharva tribe, she was a Gandharva. Lalita's friends, Lalita Sakhi. 9, she who is delighted with the friendship of Vishakha. And 10, the flower blossom that attracts the black bee of Lord Krishna's heart. Okay? Now here's the benefits. I'll just run through the Sanskrit real quick and then read the English. Imam Vrindavaneshwarya Dashanama Manorama Ananda Chandrikam Nama Yorahasyam Stutim Pased. It means it's very secret, very confidential. So you've been... Saklesha Rahito Budva, Buri Salba Gibushitaha, Twaritam Kodonapatram Radha Madhavayo Bhavet. So here's the benefits of chanting it, and you chanted it. One who recites this confidential prayer, which bears the name Ananda Chandrika, the moonlight of bliss, and which is beautiful with 10 names of the Queen of Vrindavan, that's Radharani, such a person becomes free of all troubles and decorated with great good fortune. That person quickly becomes the object of Sri Sri Radha Madhava's mercy. So, and that's, now, those of you who are in the audience, you may have also been reciting it, so everyone gets a benefit. So I think I'll also do this tomorrow. Maybe there'll be a few more locals and a few more.
Yeah. And maybe Prabhu on Saturday also. There will be more people.
Saturday. Yeah. Well, Saturday we have, I'll give you coming attractions, Saturday. Let me call it up here. There's a Shuka and Shari song in the Govinda Lilamrita, Ashtaka. The Shuka is the male parrot, the Shari is the female parrot. So the Shuka has an Ashtaka glorifying Krishna. And the Shari, female, she has an Ashtaka glorifying Radharani. So I'll chant that for you now. And, okay. And I put it into an English poem with the same meter. Okay. Let's see if this works. It should. If I key it in right, it would. All right, let's see what happens. Oh, come on. Anyway, I know the first Sanskrit verse by heart, and then I'll just give you the English, which I know all 8 of them by heart. Kunkamakta kanchanamja govahari goraba pitanachitabda kanda Kunkamakta kanchanamja govahari goraba pitanachitabja ganda kirti nindi soraba ballavesha sunu sarva vanchitarta sadika maya matma para purna dasa dastu radhika. So here's how it goes. Her gold complexion steals the pride of golden lotus tinged with red. Her fragrance mocks the scent of lotus bloom with saffron powder spread. Her skill in satisfying Sri Hari is perfect and complete. May Radhika bestow on me the service of her lotus feet. Her wondrous silken garments shame the splendor rubies can display. She is a blooming garden where the bee of Krishna loves to play. She worships Surya every day so she and Madhava can meet. May Radhika bestow on me the service of her lotus feet. Though youthful eclipsed by Radha's tenderness, the fame of budding blossoms dims. The moon, the lotus, sandal paste, and camphor serve her cooling limbs. When Krishna burns with love's desires, a soothing touch dispels the heat. May Radhika bestow on me the service of her lotus feet. Though youthful goddesses adored by all adore the goddess Shri, she lacks Shri Radha's beauty, youth, and every other quality. So when it comes to lovers' sports with Radha, no one can compete. May Radhika bestow on me the service of her lotus feet. Within the rasa dance, her singing and her joking are the best. She shines with countless traits divine, like love and gorgeous form and dress. Among the famous gopis of Vrindavan, she's supremely sweet. May Radhika bestow on me the service of her lotus feet. Eternal pastime, beauty, youth, and love for Krishna make her rich. The loving gopis tremble just to see her love at highest pitch. Her meditation on Shri Krishna's form and pastimes is complete. May Radhika bestow on me the service of her lotus feet. Perspiring, trembling, hairs on end, and crying, faltering of the voice. Impatience, joy, and guiley signs of rapture make her friends rejoice. For Krishna's eyes, these gem-like ecstasies provide a treat. And may Radhika bestow on me the service of her lotus feet. Exalted goddess, apart from Krishna for a moment, Radha feels anxiety and restlessness and other moods, the highest kind of ecstasy. But when she meets him with some effort, all the sufferings retreat. May Radhika bestow on me the service of her lotus feet. Exalted goddesses like Parvati can hardly ever see Shri Krishna's lover Radhika, but if a humble devotee recites these verses, then Shri Radha, who enjoys with Shri Hari, will pour the nectar of her service down on him eternally. So that's one of the things we're going to do on Saturday night. They asked me to give the talk. And I have a slideshow with this. I prepared a long time ago. So you can prepare yourself for that.
So 5:30 festival?
It usually starts at 5:30. Yeah, I wouldn't assume. All right, so we kind of ended early, but I think there's a few more verses I can share with you. Shikshastika. You know Shikshastika? No?
I know Shiksha means knowledge.
Shikshastika, yeah, 8 verses of instruction. Very important. Lord Chaitanya wrote these about the holy name. The whole movement really is founded on this. So the first one goes like this. Cheto darpanam arjanam bhava maharda bhagni nirvapanam shreyak kaida prachandrika vatadanam vidhyavadhu jivanam anandam buddhivardhanam pratipadam purnamita swadanam sarvatmasnaparam param prijayate Shri Krishna sankirtanam. All glories to the chanting of Shri Krishna's holy names, which easily extinguishes samsara's blazing flames by polishing the lust-encrusted mirror of the heart. That chanting is the waxing moon that knows the secret art of causing the white lotus of good fortune to unfurl its petals far and wide throughout this bleak and blighted world. Of transcendental knowledge which will take us to life's goal, the chanting of the name of Krishna is the life and soul. The ocean of ecstatic bliss floods far beyond its bounds, wherever Krishna's merciful and mystic name resounds. Indeed, whenever Krishna's names are sung in congregation, at every step one tastes a joy that knows no limitation. So hear with great attention as I earnestly request, please chant ye Krishna's holy names and be supremely blessed. The soothing nectar of the name will bathe your consciousness, bestow pure love for Krishna, and eradicate distress. But alas, we have no taste. So this Lord Chaitanya laments in the second verse. Nam namakani bahudani jasarva shaktis tatrapitani yamitak smaranena kalaha etadrishita vakripa bhagavan mamapi durdaiva mirisamiha janinaruragaha. Krishna, Govinda, and Keshava too, your names have no end, and in each of them you have invested your potencies, leaving none out. Whenever we want, we can chant them without the slightest restriction of time or of place. O Lord, who can fathom your infinite grace? Yet I am so wretched, devoid of all shame, that I haven't developed a taste for your name. How to get the taste? Next verse. Trinadapi sunichena, tarorapi sahishnuna, amanina manadena, kirtaniyak sadaharihi. More humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree, to think all praise belongs to others, none belongs to me. Such qualities attract the Lord to bless one with the power to chant His name incessantly until the final hour. So what do we chant for? Then the Lord teaches us how to pray. Nadanang nadanang nasundaring kapitang vajagadish kamaye mama janmane janmanishware bhavata bhaktatahoituki tvahi. Wealth and women, followers, the fruits of mundane piety, liberation from this world of limitless anxiety. For me, O Lord, these common goals have not the slightest worth. Let me serve you purely now and in each future birth. Which means he doesn't really even want liberation. Next verse. I nandatanurti kinkaram patitam ma vashame bhavambuddho kripaya tavapada pungaja sataduli sadashang vichindaya. Your servant for eternity, I lost my true identity and fell into this horrid sea of birth and death, O Lord. O Nanda's son, please hear my plea. By your sweet grace consider me a speck of dust upon your lotus feet forevermore. Then, specifically, he's asking now for advancement. Nayanangaladashadadaya, he's teaching us, Lord Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Nayanangaladashadadaya vadanangadhadudhaya gada pulakaya nachatang vapukada tavanamo gahane bhavishyati. Tears streaming from my eyes, my voice choked with bliss, the hair upon my body standing up in happiness. When will all these signs of rapture decorate my limbs as I chant your holy name, the monarch of all hymns? So then, in the mood of Radharani, Lord Chaitanya is now calling out, Yugaitang nameshena chakshusha prabhashaitam shunyayatam jagatsavam govinda virahe name. Every moment drags on like 1,000,000 years or more. From the rain clouds of my eyes, the tears and torrents pour. This whole creation is nothing but a vast and joyless void. Oh, Govinda, by your absence I am being destroyed. And finally, this incredible verse spoken by Radharani. Ashlishava padaratam penashnumama darshanan marmahatang korotuva yatatatava vedadhatu lampato mat prananatas tusaheva napara. Let Madhava embrace this maid who's fallen at his feet, or let him trample me or my most ardent hopes defeat by never giving me a chance to see him anywhere, thus shattering my heart and plunging me into despair. You see, he is a restless libertine and not a saint, so let him act in any way he likes without restraint. Yet though his cruel and crooked ways may cause me constant woe, Krishna is the only Lord my heart shall ever know. And then there's a 9th verse, not written by Lord Chaitanya, but given by Krishna's Kaviraj, Palashruti, which I don't know about Bengali, but it means, these 8 essential verses Lord Chaitanya wrote to teach the practice and the goal of chanting Krishna's holy name. Day by day, whoever sings these verses will surely reach a little closer to perfection, spotless Krishna praying. Hare Krishna Prabhu. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. A little early, but I think we can manage it.